Hi, my name is Kevin Stauffer, and this is a review of the book On the Golden Shore by Courtney Anderson. It's a biography of Adoniram Judson, who was the first American missionary. Adoniram was born in 1788 and born in Massachusetts to a father who was a Congregationalist preacher, very strict, very domineering guy. And when Adoniram was 16 and ready to go to college, his dad decided that he couldn't go to Yale and he couldn't go to Harvard because they were both too liberal. So he went to what is now Brown University, had a bit of a time where he came away from his faith, but then came back to it and ended up attending Andover Seminary, Andover Theological Seminary. And his father had ideas that he was going to become a great pastor and preacher in the Congregationalist church. But he got a real heart for missions there, fell in with some other friends, they called themselves the Brethren, and ended up going to the Congregationalist church denomination saying, we want to be missionaries and we want you to support us, thus starting the first American Mission Board. Right before he left, he met a girl that he called Nancy, and they got married just before so in the month of February of 1812, he got married, he got ordained, he got commissioned as a missionary and set sail for India. And once they got to India, they hooked up with famous missionary William Carey. But what they wanted to do was go to Burma, and they were very much dissuaded from going to Burma. It's too hard. It's got so many problems. Don't go to Burma. Don't go to Burma. But God opened up the door, and Carey was determined. And they ended up going to Burma, and it was hard. It was a very difficult road the whole time he was there, just about. A great lesson for us in terms of perseverance and enduring suffering for God's kingdom. Um, he lost his first wife, Nancy, and in fact, the whole time that he was there in Burma, fighting dysentery and cholera, a sickness was just a way of life. I literally lost count of how many times one or the other of them had to take a voyage. So the cure for the sickness that ended up killing his first two wives was taking sea voyages to get away from Burma, to get away from there and get out on the sea or go to somewhere where the climate was better. It took 6 years for him to have his very first convert. And one interesting thing is that on his way over on the boat, on his way to India, he started reading the Bible, and though he was a Congregationalist, so that did infant baptism, he was convinced that the baptism had to be done by believers and had to be done by immersion. So he was a Baptist now. But by making that decision, he as soon as he got to India, he conferred with William Carey, who was a Baptist, and he wrote back to his sending churches and said, "Hey, guess what? I'm no longer part of y'all anymore." And they contacted the Baptist churches and created a Baptist, said, "Hey, you have a missionary now." Very first one, Baptist churches, can we support him? So eventually that worked out, and the Baptist Mission Board was created. Carey was very instrumental in translating the Bible into the Burmese language. It was very difficult concept, even talking to the people there about God, because they had no concept of an eternal God. They had no way of, they didn't even have a language to be able to talk about those kinds of things. So he ended up creating, not only started by translating Matthew, then translating Ephesians, and eventually, over the course of about 24 years, translated the entire Bible into Burmese, but also a lot of tracts and a lot of, even a small dictionary of words to give them a vocabulary to be able to explain concepts that not only were they teaching a new religion, but the concept of even talking about things like an eternal God and salvation through atonement of sin. There wasn't even a way to explain that in the language, so they had to sort of develop that as they went. And they did a great deal by printing. They printed tracts. Later on in his ministry, he ended up going up to work with the Karen people, which is a lost hunted tribe in Burma, and handed out thousands and thousands of tracts. A lot of people got saved. 7,000, I think is the number. 7,000 people ended up getting saved there because of his ministry, and he had an impact on missions that's literally incalculable. The amount of people that were inspired by what he did yeah, is more than we could price on. So that's Adoniram Judson.